In the 20 or something years that I have been cosplaying, there is one particular skill set that I have just never been good at, and that is wig styling. I just suck styling hair. Even my own hair, I am terrible at styling. The only thing I can do is just flat iron my hair straight and then just go about my day. Heaven forbid if I ever have to curl my hair, because it just goes back to being straight, which is annoying when I want to feel fancy and I want my hair curled and then it just doesn't do it. So for this video, I am going to try my hand at wig styling. So over the course of my cosplay hobby, so 20 plus years, how people style wigs has just changed so dramatically. And I'm just so impressed with what people can do with wigs and hair now that I want to try it out as best as I possibly can. So I'm going to start with something I think that's relatively easy, and that would be my Ashura wig, because it doesn't require any crazy spikes. There's no buns, there's no things that need to quite stick out everywhere. So I'm gonna try some new to me techniques that I've seen on, YouTube and Instagram Reels or TikTok. I don't have TikTok because I'm old. So I'm going to try my best trying to learn some new wig techniques, well, new to me. So I got a couple of tools, really just a couple of tools. I mean, one big tool, but anyway. So I recently came across an Instagram reel of why people crimp their wigs. And I was like, I understand, like, if you need the volume, like you crimp a wig or you like back comb it and it gets, poofy. But the one thing I didn't know, and I still haven't verified it yet, is that if you crimp a wig, it doesn't get as tangled as if you don't crimp it. And that is the one thing that I don't like with my years of cosplaying, is wearing a long wig like this, coming back to the hotel room after a long day of being in costume, and then having the under part of your wig just being a complete and total disaster. And I've seen people at conventions nowadays and their wigs just look perfect, like all the time. And I'm like, how do they do that? Apparently it's by crimping. So I'm gonna try and do that with my Ashura wig, but I'm not gonna like crimp the hell out of it, because at least in the image, it's a 90s anime manga. So, the hair is obviously gonna be poofy with the anime bangs, as I like to put it. I'm gonna try and do that. It doesn't need to be hugely voluminous, but I would really like to go about my day in the costume without it becoming a rat's nest at the end of the day, and then bringing it home and just untangling it. It's the one thing I do not like doing with wigs. Even the current wig I am wearing, it is a rat's nest behind my neck, but I'm not turning around, nobody's gonna see it. So for my Ashura wig, I did buy a couple of things, mainly the actual wig itself. It's a lace front wig from Epic Cosplay. It's Eros. I rather like Epic Cosplay wigs, especially if I can't find a wig from Arta Wigs that I find to be suitable. So I usually order from Cosplay Wigs. I also ordered a new tool, which is a crimper. Despite my age and living through the 80s and 90s, I have never, ever crimped my hair. So this is a new adventure. I have already watched a couple of tutorials of how to like crimp a wig and kind of like how to style it. Also, while the base of the wig isn't that complicated, it's just, you know, poofy 90s anime bangs, and it's like voluminous, I guess. He also has like 4 horns that are on his head. And for me, usually, while I suck at wig styling, I am really good at headpieces. I love making headpieces. The more ridiculous it is, the better. But I want to change it up this time. Instead of putting a headband on and then attaching the horns that way, I want to try another new to me technique, which is using magnets. So I bought some very super strong magnets. I already broke one because it just like snapped together. So I bought some magnets that I'm going to sew into the wig and also like embed it into the horns so that I can just pop them off and on. Because there's one thing that, while the headpieces that I have, you know, they look great and it's easy for me to just glue everything on a headband. After like 2 or 3 hours with that on your head, plus the wig cap, plus the wig band, I start getting headaches and I don't want a headache if I'm walking around for like 5-6 hours in a costume. It just gets painful and then I get uncomfortable and it's not great. So I want to try doing magnets so that I can just attach them on and off. It'll make it easier to transport as well. So I'm going to try magnets. And then finally, a not so new to me, because I have used it before, I'm going to use foam clay for the horns, or form clay. Not foam, but form. And then embed the magnet in there and hope that it doesn't like shoot out in some manner. I also bought some wig brushes, which I've never had before. I don't know how well these work. Thankfully they weren't that expensive, but some brushes to help me brush out the hair. So I will put any product links below in my video. And yeah, let's get to work and see how this goes. It will probably be a disaster because I am a disaster with hair. Alright, the first thing I did was obviously take the wig out of the bag and then place it on my wig head and like comb out the hair. I did try my best to try and like center the wig on the wig head so that I knew where the widow's peak was, so that I could easily part it and cut the bangs in. After that, I started dividing the wig into small sections so that I could start crimping the wig. So I started on the bottom part of the wig in case I did mess up, since this is my first time crimping a wig. And it ended up turning out pretty well, if I say so myself. And then I just continued crimping and sectioning out the hair to crimp to make it easier. This did take me, I think, about maybe 3 or 4 hours total to crimp this wig. It is a long wig, so that's probably why it took so long. And this is it after I crimped everything and kind of straightened it for a tutorial I found. After I crimped the hair, then it was time to work on the bangs. So here I'm parting out the hair for the bangs and then reluctantly cutting it short. I purposely cut it longer just in case, because I'm always nervous when I have to cut bangs into a wig, because what if I cut them too short? They don't grow back. Once I got the bangs cut in as much as I wanted at this time, I then started playing with trying to get the pooky part of the bangs, which is basically taking a small flat iron, heating it up, hairspraying it, and then drying it to try and get the volume that I wanted. I'll admit that this side that I'm working on now didn't quite turn out the way I wanted, so there was a lot of disappointment, so to speak. Once I finished that side, I decided on this side I was going to try something a little bit different, and started, sectioning out the hair a little bit more and then back combing it a little bit to get a little bit more volume. And then, of course, doing the same heat, spray, dry technique. I ended up getting a little disappointed because it didn't quite turn out the way I wanted it to at this point. I thought since I made the bangs too long, maybe that's why it wasn't getting as poofy, so I decided to cut them a little bit shorter and then started heating them up, spraying them, and then letting it dry to try and get the bang part. I did eventually realize that this was not right, like, at all. And now we interrupt this sad attempt of wig styling for a cat break, featuring Ashura, the poopus. Look at her in all of her round glory. And now back to our sad attempt at wig styling. And this is where I realized that I was doing this wrong. So basically I just started combing out all of the hairspray I had just put in and started trimming the bangs shorter even more. After a good sleep, I ended up trimming the bangs even shorter, which is now at the right height. So here I am reluctantly cutting more off and hoping that they are the right length, even though I know they are deep down inside. After bluntly cutting all of the bangs, I then went in and started thinning them out and using thinning shears to try and get it less bulky at the ends. And then I started curling under the bangs and then slowly realizing that, oh, I did this right. Oh, thank God. This is not a disaster. I did something absolutely right this time. As you can tell, I was absolutely shocked. Because it actually turned out the way that I wanted it to look. I was baffled. My flabbers were gasted that it turned out the way I wanted it. The disbelief. Yay! Now that the wig was done, it was time to move on to the horns. So I made some paper patterns of all 4 horns, and then I labeled them based on what gem was on them. I also made a foil core so that I could bulk up the horn without it being made entirely out of foam clay. If I did that, the foam would have never dried. So now I'm just taking some foam clay, I'm flattening it out on my table a little bit, and then I just wrap it around the foil. It kind of stuck to the foil. It took a lot of finagling to get it on there. While the foam dried, I then worked on the gems. So I had previously already casted the gems here, and then I'm just cutting the decorations around it out of craft foam. And then sanding the edges with, yes, that is a nail file. Don't worry, I threw away that bit once I was done, and then I sanitized it before I used it on my actual nails. I then used contact cement and I think my Fabri-Tac to glue on those rings onto the circles. After that, I decided to work on the forehead piece, which I made out of 5mm craft foam. And here I'm just cutting it out very carefully so that I don't accidentally rip something off. And I ripped something off. So here I am just gluing on where the red gem goes onto the rest of it with some contact cement. Once that was glued together, I just kind of cleaned it up a little bit so that it looked a little cleaner. After that, it was time to Mod Podge everything so that I could get it ready for paint. I used Rub and Buff like I did on my neck piece in my other video because this has really great coverage and it would match the trim on the neck piece. While I was letting everything dry, I then took plastic wrap and masking tape onto the horns so that I could draw out the patterns and decorations that are on each horn. I then cut out those pieces and then I traced them onto 2mm craft foam and then I cut them out afterwards. After they were all cut out, I then glued them on with contact cement onto each horn. I did also have to use some heat to try and get it to curve nicely. Once all of the decorations were on and the magnets were embedded, it was time to paint. Thankfully, painting the horns wasn't quite as frustrating as painting the neck piece because by that point I already knew what paint was very thin and what paint wasn't, so this definitely was a bit more relaxing. I used gold Rub and Buff again for the gold details to match the trim that was on the neck piece. Once the horns were done, I then sewed the magnets into the wig. That way I could place them properly around my head. This took me 3 or 4 times to try and get right, and it was getting a little frustrating to the point I almost glued them on a headband. Almost. I did realize when I did a test fit though that some of the horns were just a little bit too long, so I ended up sawing about 3 out of 4 of them to be a little bit shorter. After I cut them a little bit shorter, I re-embedded the magnets and then it worked perfectly. When everything was ready to go, I then just had to glue on the gems onto the right horns. And voila! It's done! Oh my god! Ta-da! Alright, as you can see, I'm pretty happy with how this wig turned out. I think I just got scared of the styling, and then I was worried with the bangs that oh god, I cut them too short. They're not gonna work. And then I curled them, and all of a sudden it worked. And I've always been a little hesitant to crimp wigs because I don't like the look of it really. But I think with the technique I used, which I believe I learned from the YouTuber Honeycomb or Hammycomb, I'll link it down below. Her technique actually made it so that even though you crimp the wig and you kind of flat iron it somewhat straight after that, it actually works for me, as a personal preference. So I might be doing this a lot more in the future, is crimping the wigs and then styling it from there, because I've been wearing this for I don't know, 30 minutes or so, and I feel like it's staying in place, which is what I want, and that's great. I did also want to demonstrate how my wig works. As I mentioned, I put magnets in it, so this forehead piece I made out of craft foam. There we go. It's made out of craft foam, and then there's a tiny magnet on the back. And then I sewed a little magnet here at the widow's peak, and then I can just, boom, there you go. It's just sticking there. So for the horns, I mentioned that I didn't want to stick them on a headband, and there was a point where I was about to stick them on a headband because I got really tired of working with the magnets. It took me 3 or 4 times to get the placement of the magnets right inside the wig, but now that they're in there, it all works. So the final horns, which I have all in my hands, all have the magnet inside the base of the horn. I can just stick them on. This is to me, the greatest thing ever. You just stick them there. It is great. I have to really bend down here. But I did also have an issue like I had with the last Ashura costume, which is the issue of gravity. I always have a problem with gravity and headpieces, because with that piece, it's there's designs out, I forgot which direction it was, but basically it's heavy on one side. And I've made that headpiece twice, and I still had the same issue of gravity. I had the same issue with this side, but it turns out I just made the horns too long. So I just fixed that by, making them shorter, which is great. And it works, and it's a lot more comfortable. Honestly, I can barely feel the horns on my head, so it's great. I love it. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and I am very happy if you watched this entire video. Like and subscribe? Yes. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.